Hello and welcome to The Unexpected List. I'm Will, and with me as always is my only contestant,
Sarah.
And the way The Unexpected List works is simple. I will give Sarah a topic and she gives me the first 5 games that come to mind based on that topic. And they're board game.
Yes, board games. Board games.
All right, Sarah, are you ready?
No, but let's do this.
Because Sarah cannot research any of this. It's all off the top of her head.
It's scary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your topic is tutorial.
Oh.
All right, we're back with Sarah's Unexpected List. And as she said, this was the hardest list ever.
Well, so far anyways, I was not really sure where to go with tutorial, but as I thought about it more, and we actually did discuss it a little bit, it's about the games that have either some sort of introductory type game, a beginner game, or simplified game, some way to learn the game that's a little bit easier, has a few less bells and whistles, so that the next time you play it, you can expand and add in those things.
All right, so let's start in no particular order.
Yep.
With board game
in
number
fact,
1.
they're always in box size order with the smallest at the top. So,
which is?
Abduction. So this one's a little, not exactly a stretch. So in the base game, so this is both the base game and
the expansion.
The expansion. I have both in here. They were sold separately. But on the Kickstarter, they advertised that the base game was the family-friendly version, and then the expansion was for hardcore gamers because it added the strategic elements. So for me, the base game and the expansion are, the base game is that kind of beginner thing, and the expansion would be the hardcore or the more expanded version. Granted, you can say that with almost anything that has expansion.
Yeah, but this was specifically sold as, essentially, if you want the tutorial, buy the base game.
Right. But even within the base game, there are like 3 ways that you can adjust the difficulty, make it shorter, make it less challenging. So like you can take out some of the numbers, so they're not, something about not as much of a range.
Some of the higher numbers.
Yeah, you take out some of the high range so it's not so difficult. You make it shorter by taking out some of the cards, and now I can't remember.
Yeah, but it walked you through all the steps on how to change the scope of your game.
Right. And that expansion material really does ramp up the strategic heaviness of a really light game. So that's another reason why the base game is really that beginner tutorial to get into the more fuller experience for those hardcore gamers. So, Abduction.
Number 2.
All right, Calico. I think it's pretty safe to do that. It's safe to do this because we haven't actually played this copy of the game. So in fact, I just took it out of shrink wrap ahead of time because I wanted to make sure in the rules that there actually was the beginner version. We play tested this. And so we play tested a near finished version of the game. So we know we like the game. We just haven't actually gotten our copy to the table that we bought.
Yes.
But in Calico, because it is very thinky, I mean, there are times that my brain is not up for this game. It is brain burning to say the least. But thankfully, they have right up front, a beginner setup where you use the simpler scoring. It sets up a few different metrics. It's not, I actually thought it had a family variant, but I think I must be thinking of like Cascadia or something where it took out.
Or a fan rule.
Maybe it's a fan rule, but I could have sworn I read somewhere that people play this without the scoring in between. You usually get 3 scoring things on your quilt, and I think some people, to play it with kids, just focus on matching patterns and stuff in groups,
right?
And not so much around these scoring tiles. But anyways, so it's good that this has a beginner mode, because this one can be as cute as it is, because it's about making quilts, but quilts and cats, it just goes hand in hand. So a lot of people underestimate, just by the look of it, how heavy this game actually is. So it is good that it has a beginner setup to ease you into the game.
Yeah, there's been a lot of games that do this. They'll
Yes.
say, for your first game, do this, this, and this. Take out this. Most of those games, I don't feel really need that.
Right.
This game does.
Yes, this one really does.
This is where it actually matters that you
made-
follow the tutorial of, okay, I don't want to jump into this
Yeah.
because I will ruin my brain.
Yeah, and that may be why we haven't actually played our copy yet. Is it is an intimidating game. It's a great game, but it is a bit intimidating.
Yes.
All right, so that's Calico.
Number 3.
Seasons. So this time I'm remembering seasons because in
A previous list.
previous one, Will's like, oh, there's one you're gonna get. If you don't, then you failed. And
Yeah.
well, I failed. This time I didn't fail. Seasons. This game, kind of like Calico, is heavy. And so it actually has several different setups to ease you into the full game. So the very beginning, I think they actually might use the word tutorial.
Yeah, I think there's almost like 2 or 3
There's like
different
3.
setups
Yeah.
just to approach the beginning of the game.
Right. So the very, very beginning, you use pre-constructed decks because part of this game, first phase, is normally drafting and making your... I don't want to call it a deck because it's really only 9 cards, but it's a pre-constructed set of 9 cards that they've balanced, but you still get the choices of where you're going to put those cards in the 3 eras. And because you're going to have 3 in the first round, then 3 in the second round, 3 in the third round. Plus, you only use cards 1 through 30 of the base deck because those are the simplest cards. And then from there, you can either, usually they say go to drafting cards 1 through 30. So this time you wouldn't use those pre-constructed decks. You use 1 through 30 and you draft. Then you can add, I think it's another 30 cards. So you have cards 1 through 60. And those add really complex cards, and then you're drafting and stuff like that. And I think that's pretty much the ease you into the full game. And then there is expansion content that also adds more cards.
And then there's, okay, you don't like drafting. Okay, then overdraw this many and discard down to 9 cards. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen a game that goes out of its way to make sure your starting or your initial setup is as comfortable as it is as Seasons.
And I play this a lot on Board Game Arena, and I play it with friends where we're still playing the beginner setups, and it's fine. If you never want to draft, you don't have to.
Right.
You can continue playing with the start. You just get there's like 4 pre-constructed decks, and you just pick one randomly. So the next game you can pick a different one randomly or whatever. So you could continue to do that because you will gain cards throughout the game, and that's where the complexity can come in.
Yeah.
So Seasons, still one of my favorite all-time games, and it does a fantastic job easing people in.
All right. Number 4.
Oh boy, Earth. Another one that eases you in with a variety of ways to play, and honestly, I will always choose, if I have the choice, to play with the beginner setup and with the non-race to the finish, I don't know what else to call it, scoring. So in this, there are a lot of different ways to score. And so in the beginner one, there's these, and I do not remember what they're called, but these extra scoring metric cards.
Aren't those the fauna cards? With the different animals?
Well, that you always have 4 of those.
Right.
There's another set of 2 cards that are not the animal cards. They are something else. Like, I want to call them environment cards, but I don't think that's the right word. This is how much I don't know what they are because I don't play with them because it's just too many. It's too many different things to keep in my brain that I need to score for.
Yeah.
So I will always choose to play beginner where you just have the 4 animals that you're trying to meet their goals. Plus, I always play with the board where it's not a race to the finish scoring. So whoever finishes the owl objective first will get the most points, and then the second person gets the second most points. No, 10 points, I think it is. Everybody who gets it, as long as they achieve that goal, they get 10 points.
Yeah, because some of this is very random. It's like,
yes.
I need cards with yellow abilities. I haven't seen one, and I have 30 some odd cards in my hand.
Right. So now the expansion we don't have it yet, is supposed to help with a lot of the randomness so that you have more ways to get cards and more ways to manipulate things so that it is easier to do those. So maybe with the expansion, I would actually choose to play the more competitive version.
When it's player agency.
When you have more player agency. I still don't know that I would choose to add the 2 extra scoring cards because, again, 4 metrics is already really difficult. To keep in mind that I need 6 red abilities and I have to fill in 2 full columns and whatever the other 2 are, because I've already forgotten because I barely can keep 2 in my head at a time. So I love this game. It actually is my current #1 game of all time, but I will always choose the beginner one, and so I'm glad it has that. Even though I know it's supposed to just be a tutorial, but on the other hand, if that's what I'm comfortable playing, it doesn't need to be a bad thing.
Okay.
All right.
And number 5.
And since I'm running out of space on my side, because these are really big boxes, I'm going to actually put this, there we go. Have that there. Okay, Taverns of Tiefenthal. This is like the ultimate, like...
eye-opener for tutorials.
Yes, because the rules are broken down that you play Module 1 for your first game. Then you play Module 1 and 2 for your second game. Each time you play, you add a module. And you always have to play with all the previous modules. But by your 5th play, it takes 5 plays before you're playing the whole game. But it is just the most fantastic way to ease you in so that none of the concepts are too overwhelming, and by the time you're in your 5th game and you're playing the whole game, then you can just keep playing the whole game from there, and generally you're going to want to.
Yeah, I just always thought it was funny because you have like these little tiny pieces, like put this inside the board, and you're like, okay. And you're only doing that for that module just so that the board looks clean.
Right.
So you're not being confused by something you don't need to look at.
Right.
It has roof puzzle pieces for players to stick in your board, so you're not wondering what goes off that puzzle piece.
Yeah.
Well, it's really a module or more of the game that you're not seeing. It's like, no, here's a puzzle piece. It looks like the finished part of the tavern, so you're not even thinking about it.
Right. And that's the whole thing. The whole thing is a giant puzzle. Both your personal board and the main board has puzzle pieces that pop in and out. And I don't think they did as well with the expansion material.
Yeah.
But the base game as it is just fantastic, and how it's like, this is how you set it up, and you're going to you just literally will not be looking at anything that you're not playing with. Mm-hmm. But then when you go to play with that module, then you put in a different piece, or you flip it over, and all of a sudden there's more to the board. So this is definitely what I consider like the pinnacle of tutorial board games to ease you in through
a big experience. Yeah.
So yeah, fantastic. Also one of my favorite games of all time. Okay. Ooh, that one was, I actually unfortunately took a bit more than just 5 minutes. I tried.
At one point, she was like, I think this is the list that's only going to have one game. And it was just going to be Taverns.
It was just going to be Taverns because it was the only one that came to my mind. And then I had to look through all the games. And I even looked at our unplayed shelves because that's where Calico was. Because yeah. All right, Will, let me give you a little bit more space. Here we go. What are yours?
So, one set of games that we actually traded away more is because a lot of them required like 3 or more players, which we just don't normally have, is Friedman Freeze's fast forward games. Those are very interesting. They're usually small box deck games.
I think you only made 3, maybe 4
I think there was a 4th one, and that was definitely, we looked at it like, no, we don't play that many players. But you don't read any instruction rules. Yep. You just open it up and look at the deck and goes, hey, flip this over. This is not the start. Oh, okay. So you flip that over. And then it's like, hey, you start here. Like, oh, okay, great. You are taught the game as it plays.
Yep. Every single card will just teach you how to play the game.
Yes. So it is a tutorial while playing the game. So there's no interruption. You're just getting straight into the fun.
Yep.
So there's those series of games, and they're going to be, remember, all F name
Yeah,
starting
because
because
it's
that's
free.
how they are when they're translated over here in America. But Flee, Fortress, and there's a couple others that
Yeah.
I'm not remembering.
But they all start with also fast forward.
Yes, fast forward, look for that. The other thing that came to mind was Dominion. And the reason why Dominion comes to mind is, especially with every expansion, they'll introduce some new mechanic. Whether it's the duration cards or how night cards work or debt.
Yeah.
Just something new in the game. And the way they help you with this, with the tutorial, is at the back of these books, is they'll give you recommendation for card sets.
Yep.
So it's a tutorial on, hey, you want to know how this mechanism's played? Here's one of the best ways to experience that and get a good balance of this is still a good game, and it really has a lot of the highlights of how this is easily transitioned and makes a good play style for those mechanics. So those were the ideas that I came up in my head when I heard tutorial from that crazy random topic generator that we have.
That's your brain.
That's my brain.
All right, well then, what are your favorite tutorial or games that have tutorials that ease you into games?
Yes, let us know in the comments below. Or didn't they change on how some of these comments are?
Right
They're
now
all
it's
assigned.
still down below, but there is testing for wherever the comment box moved to.
Find it.
Find it, put some comments in because we'd like to know what your favorite games are that have a tutorial or beginner mode or ease you in or family mode or whatever you want to call it.
Yes. Basically how you learn games and what game does it best for you. And unlike Sarah, you can take all the time and do all the research you want to answer this unexpected list. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach out to us on the various social media platforms at
Rolling with Two, that's TWO. We're on Blue Sky, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Discord, we have a channel on Tabletop Express. Check the show notes for the invite link.
If you have time, check out the other content Nanaman has found for you, because remember, he's rolling with you.